welcome to the Golden Nugget Podcast. I'm Captain CJ Beckman, National Guard Association of Utah, and we are out here at the National Guard Memorial in Washington, D.C., headquarters of the National Guard Association of the United States. And I am very pleased to be joined today by members of the NGAUS Company Grade Officer Committee. We have Quatiara Brewer from the Louisiana Army National Guard.
Hello.
And we have our Company Grade Officer representative on the Board of Directors, Captain Rashida Bilal from California Army National Guard.
Soon to be Nevada National Guard. Very great to be here.
And speaking of which, we are so pleased today to have joining with us Major General Berry, the TAG from the Nevada National Guard. Sir, thank you so much for taking a few moments with us this evening to join and talk to us, and we're really excited to have you.
Really excited to be here, and anytime you talk about Nevada, I want to make sure I'm in the front of that, so battle born, battle ready, that's us.
So I have to say, from a Utah perspective, we had a small contingent that came out of Columbus, Ohio, and the absolute highlight was your closing remarks to the company grade officers that have kind of made you already a little bit famous, and people are talking about Reno, Nevada coming up here in August, specifically referencing just the opportunity to get some of that energy that you brought. And so we wanted to talk about, give kind of a sneak preview of Reno and what it is that you have in store for the National Guard Association coming to your state next year.
So first of all, thanks for the opportunity to talk to the company grades, which is the future of the National Guard, not just the future, also the present. So we look forward to having you come out, and we did Las Vegas back a couple of years ago, and we did that in 3 months. So we've had a full year to prepare, and we have already got our venues. We're going to be in downtown Reno. If you haven't been in Reno, Reno is about 4,500 feet up in the mountains. It's beautiful. It's a great opportunity to come there. The biggest thing that ever since I've been a TAG, one of the priorities for me has been learning and personal development and leadership development. And we like to say in our organization, we have a campaign of learning. So if you're looking to elevate who you are, how you show up as a soldier or airman, how you look on your capabilities, your attributes, if you want to get exposure to our senior leaders, if you want to be in a place that's going to be a little bit more intimate in terms of having the chance to develop and learn. And just today, we talked about putting on one of our courses, one of our signature courses, one of our best practice courses, one of what we think is one of the bright shining lights in the National Guard, our Purple Resolve course, where it really looks at developing the leader within. I always say this, and you've heard me say it 100 times, everybody wins when a leader gets better professionally and personally. So we're looking at how we can find, from the time you come down the escalator from the airport or you drive into the hotel, the experience begins. And I wanted to have a theme called Ruckin' to Reno. The air people didn't like it. They didn't know what ruckin' meant. So I've had to readjust. But we have the hotel, we have the venues, we have the conference center now. We're working on where the different breakouts will be in terms of, we're so hopeful because I think we're going to have a separate breakout, not just for the professional development for the company grade, but also kind of an off-site experience where you guys can enjoy yourselves and enjoy the city of Reno. I have also said this to your company grade representative, Rashida, the captain, that we're even committed to help to contribute to something to make sure it's a really good experience. One of the things I believe we have to do is lead from the front. And I was challenged today, not personally, but I got challenged when I heard the TAG from Michigan talk about when they have the conference there in 24, it's the year of the company grade. Let me tell you something. The year of the company grade is in 23. So you tell everybody that they don't have to wait to 24. They can talk about 23. They will be welcomed with open arms, and we will start the momentum, the ops tempo to elevate company grades if you come there. So having said that, we look for a great experience. I always say this, we're going to have great energy. We're going to energize you. We're going to be a little edgy in terms of what we throw out there, and we're going to execute one of the best conferences you've ever seen. So I tell everybody, you be like Paul Revere. You be an ambassador. You be a disciple. You be a champion. Tell them you don't want to miss Reno in 2023, what may be one of the best experiences you've had personally and professionally in your development. If you want to be a better soldier and airman, come to Reno, Nevada in 2023, and we will do everything we can to pour into you. Heart set, mindset, skill set, tool set.
Awesome. So I have to ask you, it's kind of
Yeah.
a personal question. So I would say in conversations I've had with other company grade officers, for a general officer, your energy and your presentation and demeanor, I would say, are not typical, to put it mildly. Just kind of to give a sense of letting people know kind of maybe your background and where you come from in the Guard, really in general, and how that affects how you lead your National Guard in Nevada.
So here's.
Can I add something to that, sir?
Sure.
Just because there's a comment that you made at Ohio that really resonated with a lot of people, and it was, do not let anyone else have a say or an influence about how you feel about your
Define
career. Yeah.
Yep. And I was a police officer for 25 years, and I was, and I'm doing the dual careers. I was DSG my whole career, as drill status guardsman. And I always tell people a defining moment for me was when I had a chance, and at the 22-year mark of my military career, I was being non-retained. And I was okay with that. I had a good career. I had been assigned to state headquarters. They said, no deployments, no opportunities, no job, no upward mobility, you're done. I was okay with that. And I had a chance to go to Volk Field, which is in Wisconsin, and it was a last minute ask, and they asked me to go to talk about tying safety into leadership and a leader's responsibility to keep their people safe, because it was a safety focused conference. And at the time, there was a 2-star sitting on the front row. His name was General Craig McKinley. He was the director of the Air National Guard at the time. And I talked to him about, I always go by this definition I never forgot. Leadership is the capacity to influence others through motivation generated by vision, produced by conviction, and ignited by purpose. And I just always remember that. It talked about influence, it talked about vision, it talked about purpose. And so I talked about a leader's responsibility is to have a connection with their people, is to ensure that you empower them, you energize them, that you remove barriers, and you're challenged that everybody that you spend time with should be elevated to be, in a position where they can live there and do their best and unleash their full potential. And the whole time during my presentation, he's looking at me and he's looking at the audience. He's looking at me and looking at the audience. So after the presentation, he came to me and he said, first of all, who are you, and what can we do better in the Air National Guard at the time? And I gave him a litany of things. I said, we don't get the support from the national level. There is no development. I said, there is no, you don't define attributes. You don't talk about how to change culture. You don't talk about how to clear the path so the airmen can do their best work. And he just wrote down, asked me about 3 or 4 questions. And then he said, okay, thank you. And that was it. And it scared me so much that I called my tag up and said, I think we're in trouble because I said too much. A month later, he calls me, and she calls me and says, you're now on his staff. And he put me over the Office of Cultural Transformation. And I always said this, if you can't lead transformation until you've been transformed. And he said to me, I want you to transform people in this organization. And that was what I call a defining moment. And too many people try to put you, we all have requirements in the military. We go to basic training and officer school. We have a culture where we build the soldier or the airman, but then we want to take away some of the individuality of what makes that person great at what they do. And we all have these gifts. And when you don't get a chance to harness and unleash your gifts for the betterment of what you were called to do, then you find out that people live within the means that they think they have to. I think John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid, and when working around those leaders that they stifle you based off of their abilities. And I said, I never want to be a leader that stifles my people based off of my abilities. I want people who exceed and can unleash and be their best self. So that experience was a defining moment because I got a chance to work for a 2-star who became the chief of the National Guard Bureau. Then he became the first 4-star. And he sent me to all 54 states, territories, and districts and numerous countries to talk about his priorities and his agenda. And he never defined how I had to be. He just gave me the parameters or talking points of what's important. And he says, I need you to light this nation up in terms of what's important, in terms of being a member of the National Guard. And that experience, go from being a non-retained to going to work for a 2-star who became a 3-star. And I was on the front row watching him become the first 4-star in the history of the National Guard. And then after I had worked for him, went back to my state, and then General Grass, who followed him, called me out to work for him. But I say all that to say that kind of elevated me from the standpoint of just being someone in your state who got a chance to be their true selves. Because sometimes people have told me, don't have great energy, don't have great passion, don't talk like you're excited about the military. Don't go out there acting like that you want to be someone who wants to take an organization and always improvement. And that stifled me for a while. But when I found a leader that was willing to let me get exposed and let me be unleashed and let me be my best self, but also following within the core values, changed my whole trajectory of my career.
So how would you advise junior officers, I say, in order to be able to, be their authentic selves, figure out who they are, learn how to embrace what makes them so that they can be ignited, to fulfill a purpose? Because I do believe most people join because they have a sense of purpose, and they stay in because they have a sense of purpose. But oftentimes, like you said, they just get into the rut of doing, the mediocre, the bare minimum, and not really unleashing their full potential without necessarily sometimes becoming bitter or angry, or like you said, they're suddenly outcast because they're not falling in line with a culture.
I always tell people this: you have to feed yourself before you feed the organization or feed your team. Meaning, when you spend time, I've been just a voracious learner most of my life. And it's hard to hold on and to stifle people who know their purpose and know what they're called to do and know their gifts and are willing to exercise those. And you may, from time to time, work for someone or be in a situation or be a part of a team that may hold you back. But if you stay true to yourself and be okay with being flexible, sometimes you got to be okay with changing MOSs or FSC, so to speak. You got to be okay with going to schools and doing assignments that may be non-traditional. You got to be okay with taking a different path sometimes. You got to be okay with that. But you also have to be okay with being uncomfortable or being in an discomfort zone. That's okay to do that. I never forget one time I heard Stephen Covey talk about the circle of influence and the circle of concern. I've never forgot that. And he says, when you spend so much time in that circle of concern versus the circle of influence, the things I can't influence are in the concern. The things I can influence, my attitude, my passion, my drive, my commitment, my focus, my hunger, all those things, my learning, all those things, my attitude, all those things, you will burst out of people and situations that want to stifle you. And you have to, I like to say this, trust the process, which means start with your authentic self, as you say, and don't be afraid to push the envelope and ask questions. Anybody that's a company grade that doesn't have at least 3 mentors, I'm telling you, you're missing it. Anybody that's a company grade that hasn't laid out an individual development plan, I'm telling you, you're missing it. Anybody that's a company grade that does not have a campaign of learning outside of professional military education, you're missing it. You have to have those components. And you want people who will challenge you, that is not afraid to say, this is not a good statement, but I'm going to say it anyway, that's not afraid to say that baby's ugly, which means you got to be doing something different. Stop being impressed with yourself. You ain't as sharp as you thought. You got to go a different direction. I always say this, I still do this every January or end of the year. I always review my personal mission statement, and I always set goals for the year. Every single year for the last 25 years, I've done that. Every single years. And I know some people may think this is a little goofy, but if you don't have a vision statement for yourself and for your life, think about this. How many people will get into a relationship and haven't sat down and defined what's important to them as a couple? Now take your life the same way. You haven't defined what's important to you in your life, your priorities, your values, where you aspire to go, what's important, your non-negotiables. I always tell people, know what your non-negotiables are, because so many times they don't. And the military, which is structured, is a great fit for you, because innovation, creativity, even when General Brown says accelerate, change, or lose, that's where it's going to. So those who have a hunger and desire to live at a higher potential and a higher limit and a higher ceiling, those opportunities will come if you trust the process. And my favorite saying, H. Whitney Young, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Always be prepared. Life will find you.
Awesome. So I know we've got the Legion de Lafayette award ceremony getting ready to start right now, so I don't want to take any more of your time, but I do want to just ask real quick, kind of a question we normally ask. Top 3 books right now that you would say a company grade officer needs to start reading to affect that change in themselves?
Well, I think it's Hearts of Fire by David Gergen. I don't know if that's, I think I have the title right.
And I know I put you on the spot.
Yeah, but Hearts of Fire by David Gergen, he put it out. David Gergen worked for 4 presidents, and the wisdom behind that is just amazing. I know you said 3 books, but I'm a huge John Maxwell fan. I just am, and I just, and then Bill George's True North, just True North, because you have to know your true north in life. You have to know what you've been called to do. There's a reason why I'm not in certain professions. Like I can't work in accounting and finance. Nobody would get paid. I know that. I just know that. So you have to know where your gifts are and work towards those. And because when you don't, and I go back to what I said earlier, if you don't define your life, someone else or circumstances will do it for you. And we have too many people whose lives are being defined by situations and circumstances, and then they get unhappy, and then they start to blame, then they get frustrated. You have to be very intentional about your life. I always tell people this too. Always think about what 3 words do you want people to describe you by, and work towards that. I've changed, but relentless, consistent, and passionate were just my words, and then I threw in resilient. But I was very intentional about how I wanted to be. And I just remember, I was enlisted. And I remember sitting in Airman Leadership, well, actually they called it NCO Prep School. And I remember I was like, this is the most boringest, worst time I've ever had in my life listening to these people up here. And if I ever get a chance to be in front of young airmen to tell them how to navigate their careers and what they need to learn, I'm gonna change it. When I came back, we would do a course before we sent airmen to our NCO Prep School. I turned the course upside down. I had experiential learning. I had them reading leadership books. I had them writing what their purpose was. I had them write a letter to themselves that they would get when they got to the school. Then I had them write a letter while they were there that they would read 3 months after they got back from the school. I would just, and the instructor's like, I'm gonna adopt that. And it wasn't that I was that much advanced, but here's what I pray for every day, just so I'll let y'all know. Wisdom, integrity, judgment, discipline, and discernment. Those mean so much to me. I want to be able to discern what's in front of me, what I need to pay attention to. I want to be wise enough to do the right thing. The judgment, not from the standpoint of judging people, but I want to make really good decisions in what I do. So when I look at my organization, like when I first took this job as a tag, first 120 days, I've just sat back, watch, listen, ask questions, interview, watch, sit back, listen, ask questions, interview. Because I said I want to make the right decisions and discern what's in front of me so I can do what's best for our organization and really pay attention to that, because I now have, these lives matter, these souls matter. They say, what keeps you up at night? That I haven't done absolutely the best I can to create the right culture for them to unleash their full potential. And if they don't come here as excited as me, what is it that I need to do to make sure that they have a love for our organization? So that's just important to me.
Awesome. Well, Major General Berry, thank you so much for sitting down with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again at Reno and next year in 2023.
Can't wait.
The real year of the CGOs.
The real year of the CGO. You will be so prepped before you go to Michigan. You're gonna take over the whole state. They may name Michigan CGO Michigan because you're gonna be so fired up. But thank you for the opportunity. It's always about gratitude. We're blessed to be able to do this, and I never take that for granted. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
sir.